Hi guys, thank you for joining me once again. I'm Richard, this is Project Pod UK, and we're on episode number 8. We're storming through these podcasts. They seem to be getting better and better. My guests just coming in with so much knowledge. It's great. I really enjoy listening to these people. This isn't at all about me. It really is about the people that are coming on, and all I want you guys to get from this is some infotainment. So when I say infotainment, what I mean is I want it to be informational, but I also want it to be entertaining for you guys. I really want you to get into this podcast, enjoy it, but take away some knowledge as well. My guest today was Gary Lane. Gary's a good friend of mine. We talk about stress, anxiety, mental health and depression. So without further ado, Gary Lane. Hey Gary, welcome to the podcast.
Hi mate, glad to be here.
No, it's a pleasure to have you on, mate. I know we've been speaking about doing this for well over a year now, so we finally got around to it. So I'm excited.
Yeah, me too, mate. I've been thinking a lot about it, and yeah, it's something that I'm really passionate about. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. I think you've got a good message to kind of put out there. A lot of helpful advice that people will be able to take away from this podcast. So it's great having people like yourself on, because I always say, like, I say a lot of stuff, but I'm not educated. So a lot of stuff that I say is probably wrong, or I probably contradict myself a lot of times. So at least if it comes from somebody who actually knows what they're talking about, it makes a lot more sense. Right. So I know you're very up to date with this concept, so I don't need to explain it to you. We're going to get acquainted with Gary. I usually say in 60 seconds, but sometimes it goes a little bit longer. So are you ready, Gary?
Yes, mate. Go on, fire.
Okay. Full name?
Gary Lane.
Age?
53 on Monday.
Oh, nice. I have to send you a card. Occupation?
Psychotherapist.
Who do you most admire?
Do you know what? Talking of podcasts, I've been listening to Rich Roll.
Oh yeah, read his book.
Yeah. Do you know what? At the moment, I'm I listen to a lot of his podcasts, and his journey, and I guess somebody like that. I think at the moment.
Yeah, awesome. Very inspirational guy. I read his book. He's an ultra runner.
Yeah.
And actually, from what I got from reading his book is, if you're in one of those places where you think, nah, I can't do it, I'm not cut out for this or that, listen to his story. Listen to where he was when he started running.
Yeah.
And where he's got to now. It's a pretty amazing story, and we'll come back to that. Worst habit?
It's got to be smoking when I drink.
Yeah. Me too. Guilty. If your life was a movie, which actor would play you?
Wow. That's a tough one, mate. That's left me speechless.
You're trying to be modest. Just say George Clooney or something.
Al Pacino.
Nice. Okay, bath or shower?
Shower after the gym, bath when I want to relax.
Yeah. Favorite TV show?
Oh, I'll tell you what, mate. I've just watched that Gangs of London. That is epic.
Is that a show on Netflix or something?
No, it's on Sky, I believe. It is
right, okay.
Epic.
I've not even heard of that, so I'll have to look out for that one.
Literally just come out.
Awesome. Youth or wisdom?
Wisdom.
And this one is the last question. I always make it a little toughie. What's your lifelong ambition?
I guess I'm doing it now, mate. To make a difference, to help people understand and unlock their own sense of who they are, and to give them the courage to be able to do that. I think to be the best version of themselves.
Yeah, Yeah, that's a great thing to want to do, because it's very selfless. You're not saying, yeah, I want to be a millionaire, I want a massive house and any of that crap. You're actually thinking about other people. So that's a great answer.
Cheers, mate.
So, yeah, let's talk about you a bit more then. Your occupation, you're a psychotherapist. It's quite a broad occupation. So, you know, just water it down a little bit. Let us know, home in on actually what it is you do.
So I guess basically, if you want to kind of unpick it a little bit, I guess it's about almost, I guess, giving people, being in a relationship with somebody that is probably, with a lot of people, they probably never had a relationship like it. And what I mean by that is, it's about being genuine, about being authentic, non-judgmental, and allowing somebody to have the autonomy to be who they are. And it can take, and I guess it's about me adapting to the person. So you will, everyone will have their own almost perception or idea of somebody else, and you can see people's potential in them, but
Yeah.
I think one of the hardest things to do is to have that acceptance of that's who that person is at that time, and try not to project on to them your own expectations of who you think they should be based on your own experience.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we all do that. I mean, it's judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
And don't actually think beyond that and what that person is going through at that point of time, what they could be going through. We all, and I'm guilty of it. I've judged people on first impressions and actually found out that person's a great person. Find out some amazing things and then actually look back at it and say, yeah, I made a bad judgment call there. I've always been quite a good judge of character, but as I've got older, I've also been able to give people the benefit of the doubt as well, depending on who it is, and at the time, really step back and think, well, you know what, this person is this person now, but what you're talking about is unlocking the potential of that person. You really don't know what people are going through at certain points in their lives.
Do you know what, Rich? I think that is a really, really good point, because I think it's easy to stand back and look at somebody's behaviour and and their mannerisms and look at that and judge them on that. Whereas the behaviour and the mannerisms are just an adaptation. It's like a mask. It's it's like a protective coating, and it's we're all human beings, and and we're all none of us are perfect, and we all fuck up on a regular basis. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's easy to be able to look at somebody and go, fucking hell, what's that all about? But you don't know where that person's at. You don't know, what that person's even gone through that day, do you? And I think a lot of that comes down to, if you look at, judging people on your own insecurities, you'll normally judge somebody on an area of your own life where you don't feel particularly comfortable with.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can think of days where, if somebody's first met me, there could have been a day this week where they'd have been like, that guy's a dick.
Yeah.
But then they could have met me today and been like, oh, he's pretty cool. Yeah. So it's one of them things, isn't it? I suppose it is really about finding out what's inside. And I'm sure that's what you do in your occupation.
Yeah, and I think the easiest way to do that is to be curious about that person. Do you know what I mean? Get to know them. And, we're all, and I think one of the things that I love about what I'm doing is, it's about, people can have different opinions and they can have quite extreme opinions. But I guess it's about educating yourself on where that person has come to, where that person has come to have that opinion. Do you know what I mean? That opinion is based on their experience of their life through whatever that may be. Do you know, that might be like a multi-generational thing. It might be, you know, a community thing. It might be the area that they live in. Do you know, and you know, an environmental thing. All of these things will have a basis upon that person's experience of, you know, their own life, and that's where that opinion will come from. And I think what I love about what I'm doing is, you know, you can really get to know somebody, and it's okay to like somebody. Do you know what I mean? And for them to have a different opinion to you. I'll never forget when, do you know, like, you know me, do you know what I mean? And you know what I look like, and you know, and you know, how I sound, etc., etc. And you know, most of my male friends in the past have been quite stereotypical male kind of, you know, I worked on a building site for a long time, and it's that, you know, very kind of, you know, egotistical, for want of a better word.
Sure. Like, you've got that wide boy accent.
Yeah, and when I first started working at youth offending, I got to know a fella there, like, and he, you know, and he's now really high up in the service. And do you know what? Me and him are absolutely poles apart. We have virtually nothing in common. And and do you know what? You know, I got to know him really well by working with him, and we have the best relationship. Do you know what I mean? Going, we are so close, and it just goes to show you. Do you know what I mean? That you can develop a relationship with someone just by getting to know them, just by, you know, I mean, like, really getting to know them. Because I think and I'm going to be quite stereotypical again. Do you know, as men, do you know, like, you know, you'll go down the pub and you'll meet up with, you know, acquaintances that you know in the pub, but very rarely will you have a really deep conversation about who they are, or, you know, or what's going on for them. Do you know, most of them will ask you how work is, or, do you know what I mean, talk about football, or talk about whatever, but you won't get to know that person. You could drink in that pub for 5 years and you won't even know who that person is.
Yeah, it's so true. I can feel my own psychotherapy session coming on right now. Some of the things that you've already picked up on. I like the points that you're making, you know, about being from a certain background, growing up in a certain area. I'm a council estate lad. You know, I never really felt, you know, kind of could aspire to be much. I always, as much as I'm very competitive, as you'll know, and I work hard. I've worked hard at everything I've done, whether that's at work, at my place of work, whether that's outside of work, it's the gym, those kind of things, relationships, you know, as a friend and you know, as a husband, as a father, all those things. You know, I always try and work as hard as possible to be that best person. Yet I still stereotype myself. And put myself down in the way of thinking, like, you can't really be much in your life. And you'll meet certain people and you hear the way certain people talk. One of my closest friends now is my manager, and he talks a certain way. You know, I very much look up to him at work, and how he is, his demeanor, everything. And I've always looked at somebody like him and been like, yeah, I can't, you know, I'll never be able to achieve that. I can't do that. Well, actually, I can, and anybody can, and you can achieve what you want to achieve. And you picked up on some great points there. And I think a product of your environment, I think, is what I was trying to get at.
We are all a product of our own environment. Do you know what I mean? From a very early age, we, you know, how our parents are with us. Do you know, we will model what a relationship looks like to us later on in life by the relationship that our parents had with each other and with us. So, you know, like, so, you know, how did your parents deal with conflict? How did your parents, you know, show their emotions? How, you know, and all these kind of things will kind of form who you know, your identity. And then part of your identity also will, as you say, be based in your wider environment. Do you know what I mean? Like the council estate you grew up on, and also generationally as well. Do you know, like, you know, when I look at my own, you know, I look at my dad and I look at my granddad. Do you know what I mean? That kind of that, you know, my dad's always said to me that his dad taught him to be hard to your sons and love your daughters. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And it's only now, like, you know, both me and my brother have absolutely kind of gone the opposite way with that. But, you know, now he kind of, my dad, he's nearly 80, and he now realises that probably weren't the best way to bring your kids up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. And, you know, he was probably brought up the
He
same
was
way.
brought
So
up like
obviously it's one of those things that's passed down.
that.
And I think as parents or grandparents, we all need to be very aware of the way we are with our own kids, the way we speak to our own kids, or the way we act around our own kids. So in our own relationships, you know, because let's take it, for instance, if I was aggressive and horrible to my wife, for instance, and my son sees that, he thinks that's normal. So when he grows up, he's going to act the same way.
Exactly.
Is that the kind of man that you want your son to grow up to be?
Yeah.
You know, the same as I've got a daughter as well. So she's going to learn a lot from our relationship. She's going to see things that her mum does. And I've got to admit, Kira, my wife, is brilliant. And she's very affectionate with my son, which I didn't have from my parents when I was young. That doesn't mean my mum and dad didn't love me.
Exactly.
I know that. I know that they love me. But the affection thing was really hard for me, like hugs and stuff like that. I never got that. Like, I never hugged my mum, and I don't. It doesn't bother me. It's not had sort of a mental impact on me or anything like that. I just understand that's how we were. We're Yorkshire people, you know, kind of renowned for being a bit tough and stuff like that. But my mum's got a heart of gold, and she loves all her kids. She loves us all. So it's nothing to do with the fact that she doesn't love us. But then, you know, it did make me a little bit less affectionate.
Yeah.
You know, the hugs and all that stuff with my kids, I've had to learn that from my wife.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a lot of, like you say, it does go back. It's generational. Some of those points there, you do have to sometimes stand back and look at yourself. You know, I often will say things to the kids when they get on my nerves and stuff that I think, well, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or maybe I should have sort of, I don't know, sat back and let it process a little bit first, and then think about how I'm going to go back to them and how I want to speak. And I'm still working on that. I've still got to do that more and more. And I think everybody should take note. Everybody, especially if you're a parent, think about how you want your kids to turn out and the sort of mental impact that you will have by acting a certain way around your parents. You know, you can't be contradictive. You can't tell your kids that they can't be on the phones all the time if you're constantly on your phone. It's just little things like that. But as far as emotions are concerned, I think that's really important.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we're not perfect, mate. We're work in progress, aren't we? And I think one of the biggest things that you can learn from is when, you know, as you say, we're not perfect. So when you do get it wrong, admit to your children that you are wrong. Do you know what I mean? Apologise and go, do you know what? I shouldn't have done that, and I'm really sorry about that. Do you know? And because, you know, because kids are quite insular, they believe that everything is their own fault. So when something happens, do you know, parents break up, or do you know, or you know, there's something else goes on in the household, the child will take that on board as if it's their fault. So then, you know, they will kind of internalize that, and then, you know, believe that there's something wrong with them. There's something wrong with me because it caused my parents to split up, for example. You know? And that will have a massive impact, you know, how you move forward. If that's not explained to you at the time, do you know, if that's not processed with the children, going, actually, it's not your fault, it's our fault. You know what I mean? We still love you. But if that's not processed as a child, that then manifests later on in life, where, do you know, you will struggle to trust people because you don't want to let them in, or you will go the opposite way, and, you know, be able, you know, almost like people please to be able to kind of to get that affection. So
look for that affirmation constantly.
Absolutely. Do you know what I mean? Or, you know, use something to almost distract you away from connecting with other human beings. So whether that's, you know, self-soothing with alcohol or drugs, or anything else that distracts you away from it. So that can be work, that can be gym, food, phones,
Yeah.
the internet.
And I suppose a lot of these things are then related to poor mental health.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stress, anxieties, all those kinds of things. Because I know, poor eating, it can cause deficiencies in correct minerals and vitamins, which then cause sluggishness. And I suppose that it kind of just spirals from there. Really, the worse you start feeling, the easier it is to start feeling more worse, I suppose, if that's the right way of putting it.
Yeah, it's absolutely. So when I see a new client for the first time, I will do an assessment, and and that will be holistic. I will ask like what they're sleeping like, what their phone times like, what their diets like, what their exercise is like, what they're depending on if they're an adult or a child. Do you know what I mean? Ask what their experience of school's like, or their experience of work's like. What are your relationships like? How do you maintain relationships? Who do you let in, and who do and so you've got a whole holistic picture of what that person is like, and then you can kind of, I had this conversation in therapy today, you go on the internet or wherever, there are thousands of self-help books, isn't there? Or, people like trying to kind of promote, positive well-being and stuff like that. But actually, the most important thing is you need to turn it into action. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can read every self-help book that's out there. So you've got the knowledge, but unfortunately, the thing that you need to do, where the action is where the emotion is. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So change is the hardest thing to do because it's uncomfortable. As human beings, we've got accustomed to sitting in our comfort zones. We've got all this luxury around us, and it's easy, isn't it, to sit in your comfort zone?
So easy, and that's where one of the books that I read by David Goggins that really hit home with me, what you've just mentioned there about being in your comfort zone. And I often kind of preach that now. You get to a certain point where even if you are exercising as well, so if let's go back to like, you're not exercising, you're being at home, you're in your comfort zone, it's nice, it feels good, and your mind is telling you that you feel good, and this is where we're happy, we don't want to go outside of this. But when you sort of go out and start doing some exercise, you can start doing well, but you will also hit that point again where it's a little bit uncomfortable. They're the points where you start to push it a little bit more. And I think that's something that, when I read that book, I was like, this guy's an absolute inspiration. I'm nothing compared to what he's achieved. But I always apply that. I always start thinking back to that. There's certain things that he would say in that book that really hit home with me. Another thing was Ant Middleton's book, First Man In. There was something that he would say in that. This quote was, make your enemy your energy. So use all that anger and pain and everything else to become your energy, to use that. So like, I always think about running, you need to get some energy from somewhere. You need to get that motivation. And if you can channel that right, it does, personally anyway, it does help me. If I can channel all that energy in a positive way, I can just keep going and keep getting through it and just keep going over these things in my mind. And eventually, actually, I can forget about them things because now I'm really enjoying it. You're starting to feel the benefits of the endorphins being released, and suddenly you're happy, you're taking in the surroundings. All that kind of stuff is amazing for me. So I suppose that's something that we'll talk about as we go on, and people that are suffering with depression, mental health issues, and how they can sort of put these steps into place.
I think that's important what you're saying there. I think, but when you're dealing with somebody that's kind of gone through some kind of developmental trauma,
Yeah.
That sometimes that's difficult for people to do, to have that self-awareness or to have that drive where they can
Sure.
channel that into getting up and going out. And I think for a lot of people, it's overwhelming, and they feel, if you've got this kind of, if you've got core beliefs of, you're not good enough, you're unworthy, you're unlovable, it's
Yeah.
very difficult to be able to kind of channel that into to channel that anger, because anger is a great emotion to be able to channel into energy. But
Yeah.
if you've got that kind of underlying kind of, as I said, core beliefs that you're not good enough and unlovable, I think you need to go deeper than that, and you need to deal with the underlying issue. And I guess that's kind of what we're talking about today, isn't it? We can look at,
Yes, definitely.
the coaching side of it. I think that's okay if you have that awareness and you have that ability and that drive. But I think when you're really struggling with, like acute anxiety or, depression is a word that gets bandied around a lot. I think if you are clinically depressed, you won't even be able to get out of bed.
Yeah.
And you need, and people that are clinically depressed, that don't wash, don't take care of themselves, have a poor diet, etc., etc., etc. I think it's really important that I emphasise that, they seek medical help. They go to their GP and they seek a professional's help.
Definitely.
Because a lot of that, especially clinically depressed, you're not going to be able to do that on your own. You're not going to be able to kind of get that energy and to be able to
No.
motivate yourself. So I want to make that really clear that, if you're feeling like that, if you're not looking after
Yeah.
yourself, really basic needs. So, you're either
Yeah.
like not sleeping at all or sleeping too much. You've got a really poor diet. You can't get out of bed. You can't get off the sofa. You're not washing. Do you know what I mean? And the world just seems like a really hopeless place. Then
Yeah.
you need to seek some
Yeah,
medical help. Go speak to your
definitely.
GP.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I've obviously, well, I say obviously, it's not obvious. I don't like it when people do that, and I've just done it myself. But I've known, manic depressives, and I know that they don't even listen to their closest loved ones. Never mind something that's coming out of my mouth, who they probably don't know because they're just listening to it over a podcast. But yeah, I suppose we're talking about people who suffer with anxiety, struggle with, just people who have that inability to feel satisfied with themselves, with their careers, or anything that they're doing in their lives. And I suppose again, it's probably the lead up to becoming that type of depressive person, that manic depressive. And I suppose this is where you have some sort of intervention with yourself, somewhere that you can actually pick up and maybe give some great advice on.
So
I mean, I know quite. Yeah, carry on.
So I think, when people get to that place where they just can't make sense of anything, I think that's the place where you become helpless and, and just nothing makes any sense. And then I would encourage people just to, either ask somebody, if they know anybody, or, go on the internet and, search for counsellors, psychotherapists, or, pick the phone up. You've got Mind, charities like that, to be able to kind of unpick with somebody what is going on for you. And it's a very daunting kind of experience. Like, so when I first started my training, as part of the training, a part of it was, I had to be in personal therapy, and I've kept that on, and I guess I think I've been with my therapist for about 8 years now. And we were talking over the last couple of weeks, and we spoke about it today, about because I've got that kind of mentality where I will just push myself, and that drive, that anger, is where that motivates me. But unfortunately, in therapy, that's what I wanted to do. I just said to her, just rip the plaster off. And I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to collude with what you do to yourself. I'm going to offer you something different. So I'm going to offer you that kind of really, really slow it down and really kind of spend time on you, because you never do that to you. And that's kind of developed over the last, 7-8 years. And we were talking today about, I guess, getting to a place where you can actually, it's about, so I'm not talking about cognitively, I'm not talking about thinking, I'm talking about feeling, where you actually get to a place where you actually feel compassionate about yourself. And
yes,
and it's took me a long time to get to that place, because even when I was, after I'd qualified as a therapist, I would have, my diary would be ram full. Do you know what I mean? I'd be working all the hours under the sun. Do you know, I'd be at the gym. I'd be going out the weekend. Do you know what I mean? And it was just
burning the candle at both ends.
And I think and it's got to the stage where it's actually, it's that balance, isn't it, between yourself and helping others. So being kind and compassionate to yourself, and also having the energy to be able to offer that to somebody else. And I think it's very. I see a lot of people in the helping industry, like carers and nurses and foster parents at the agency where I work, and they are notoriously very poor at giving themselves self-care.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I suppose like the NHS stuff and that are out there now, and it's funny you say that, because I had a friend of mine on, Steve, who's a goalkeeper coach, and he was saying about, she works for the NHS, and he just sort of threw her a text to say, hope you're doing well, like really proud of you, sort of thing, that what you're doing is amazing, and she just says, well, it's just my job. And he was like, no, it's not just your job. Like if you would have been told about this when you took this job on, that you were going to have to work around this disease, which is potentially could catch yourself, spread to your family, kill you and other people around you, you wouldn't have took the job. And it's very much in line with what you're saying. It's a case of they don't think about themselves. My friend works for the NHS, and he's a porter. He's not a doctor or anything like that, but he's there all the time. He's one of the happiest, go-lucky guys. Keeps people's spirits up so good. And I had a chat with him a few weeks ago now, and I just said to him, I said, I'm proud of you, man. It's like, what you're doing, putting yourself out there. And he was exactly the same. He went, well, it's just what it is, and just have to, we just at work, and it's not the same as the way you see it out here. And I'm like, no, it's we're here, we're being told to stay at home, right, and look after ourselves and our families and stop the spread of this. We're being told to work from home. People are moaning because they can't go out and get a Nando's or the nails and hair done and things like that. And all we've been asked to do is stay at home. You've got to be in amongst it, working around it. And he's like, yeah, I suppose. And it's just exactly what you're saying. They're not caring for themselves. They're not processing it. They're just going through these motions. And I suppose thinking about it now, what is their mental health going to be like? What's their mental state going to be like after all this? Because they're just carrying on, not processing anything, not giving themselves that self-care. I suppose it's going to get to a point where, they're going to start really feeling it. Instead of feeling it now and acknowledging what it is. And actually, we are here doing a great job, and I'm proud of myself for that. That's going to, I'm only just, I'm not obviously a professional, but in my own head, I'm thinking
you're right.
That is at some point going to manifest itself into something ugly.
And I think as human beings, we are notoriously bad at acknowledging ourselves, aren't we? Do you know what I mean? It's like, somebody pays you a compliment, a lot of people just don't know how to take a compliment. Do you know what I mean? Well,
and you're a therapist, and you know about this, and I can even say at a time where we was at the gym, and I think it was when we all went out and had a drink, The whole burn crew came together, which is the class that we did, the burn class. We had probably 30 of us in this burn crew. And I remember you came to me and you said, mate, you shook my hand. You was like, mate, I need to get you a drink. And you turned around to me and went, I love you. Like, I watch you and you're amazing. And I look at you in the gym and I want to be like you. And I'm like, Gary, you're about almost 20 years older than me. I'm like, and what you do is amazing. Don't worry about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And even you're a therapist and you understand this, but even you're not giving yourself the credit for what you're doing.
Yeah. And I think, I'm in a different place to where I was then. I went back to uni, and I was studying, working full time, and it's easy to lose yourself. It's easy to lose yourself in your environment, in what's going on externally, and I think I got to a place where I did lose myself, and it's and it's only kind of through, cognitively, mentally, I could be able to kind of rationalize it and go, well, yeah, there's a means to an end, etc., etc. But it's about acknowledging you while you're in there.
Yeah.
And I think, and it is easy to lose yourself.
Yeah. And you're amazing. And everybody that, we was at the gym with, and they still say it now. I mean, I got a message off Phil the other day saying, oh, I had a good chat with Gary the other day. He calls you the GOAT.
Yeah.
Greatest of all time. Aaron still talks about you now. And obviously we don't go to the gym together anymore, but people still look at you, look up to you and say, Gaz is a top bloke. So, back then when you're saying things like that about yourself, I'm glad you've sort of taken more time on yourself to feel that and appreciate yourself.
And I just
have that bit of self-care.
And I just want to thank you for the compliment. It's nice to hear. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem at all, mate. Credit where credit is due.
Yeah, cheers.
So go back to what we were saying, mental health is such a big thing nowadays. And I mean, like you said, the word depression does get bandied around a lot. I don't know how to categorize these things where it's stress, where it's anxiety. It's if you don't understand, and I think that's why depression gets bandied around a lot, because I think the people that are going through these things don't quite understand either.
Yeah.
So I think the main thing, what I want to sort of outline is, and back to what you were saying about this is when you need to get help. What are the points that people get to? If you could describe some examples of how you start feeling, for instance, or certain things that might be happening where you need to get to the point and be honest with yourself and say, actually, I need help. Because I think that's the biggest thing, is that people are not honest enough with themselves to say, I need help. And probably more than anything, men. I think because we're men, and that's what men do. And going back to what we were saying earlier, going to the pub and stuff like that. How often do you talk to your mates? You could probably go to the pub with your mate for 10 years and not knowing that when he goes home, he's suffering with anxiety, stress, depression, even poor mental health, however you want to put it, because they don't like to show that. What is the point, and what are some of the things that I suppose you need to be looking out for to say, right, we need to look at getting some help, or we at least need to speak about these issues? Because I suppose you don't necessarily have to go to a doctor or a psychiatrist or anything like that. It could be just a problem shared is a problem halved.
There is a lot of that.
Age-old saying.
Yeah, there is a lot of that. And I think if you're looking at it from an outsider's point of view, so if you're looking at like one of your mates, well, I guess I would be particularly concerned about them if you notice a change in their appearance, like so they're not washing, or they look a bit unkept. If they, their behaviour changes. So if they're really quiet, isolating themselves, and when you ask somebody if they're all right, most of the time someone will say, yeah, I'm fine. Ask again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or,
Yes.
you know, try to get them out of the house, or, you know, try to engage them and connect with them in a way where they don't feel threatened or they don't feel overwhelmed, you know, just something quite casual. I think with regards to, you know, you were talking about anxiety and stuff like that. I think,
Yeah.
you know, anxiety is a tough one, you know, and everyone will experience it in a different way. Anxiety, you know, is healthy anxiety. You know, we all have healthy anxiety. It's something that's kind of in us that keeps us safe. It's something, you know, that we've had since, you know, we lived in caves. And you know we're a mammal, so you know in the wild it's used to keep us safe. You know, animals have it. You know, antelopes have it to keep, so they're, you know, hyper vigilant when they're eating, keep them away from lions, etc. So, but the trouble is with anxiety, like our brains have not developed since back then. That part of our brain has not developed since back then, whereas the world has developed, you know, exponentially, especially over the last 20, 25 years with the internet, etc., etc.
Is that the chimp brain?
That, yeah,
as I call it.
Yeah.
The cerebral cortex.
Yeah. So it's the reptilian part of the brain, and when we go into survival mode, when we become anxious, when we become worried, it's because we don't feel safe. So we then go into survival mode. The front part of the brain shuts down, which is the logical, rational part. And then we kind of go into, you know, that survival mode where we get flooded with cortisol, you know, which is, you know, and over a period of time, it's stress. Do you know what I mean? It turns into stress, and it's not healthy because your body's working doubly, like twice as hard as it would do normally, to be able to kind of pump the blood around your body, to be able to kind of, you know, to get you out of danger. So, and I think, you know, people will deal with anxiety in different ways. They will, you know, adapt, change their behavior to be able to manage their anxiety. They will, you know, some people will eat about, you know, some people will excessively go to the gym. Some people will, you know, drink or go to work or, you know, go on the internet or whatever it is. People will adapt to managing their anxiety in an unhealthy way. And I think it's you know, it's quite simple really to manage it, but it's probably one of the hardest things to do.
So, and I think the drinking part of it, I think especially, you know, I know a lot of people that kind of suffer with anxiety go to alcohol as a relaxant. But the problem is, and you've probably experienced it yourself if you've had a heavy session or something like that, I've felt almost anxious in the following days after drinking. So if you're already suffering from anxiety and then you're piling alcohol in to cope with that, the next day I'd imagine that's going to be twofold, you know, and it's going to make it even worse. And again, it's kind of a spiral.
Yeah, it is. And I think with the thing with being with anxiety, it's about, again, you know, you might need somebody to help you with it, but it's about being present. It's about, you know, it's like doing a risk assessment, you know, because your brain's telling you that you're in an unsafe environment. So have a look around, you know, and ground yourself. Become more present in what you're doing. So use your senses. What can you hear? What can you smell? What can you taste? What, you know, what's the sensations on your skin? And try to ground yourself. You know, when you become anxious, your breathing becomes shallow. So become aware of your breathing. And there's like thousands of breathing techniques on the internet, you know, like breathe in for 4, breathe out for 4. You know, there's all of these kind of things. And I guess for most people that I speak to, you know, we can talk about kind of these things about, you know, how can you take control over your anxiety rather than your anxiety have control over you? And that's the biggest thing. It's because people get so overwhelmed they really struggle to take control or responsibility for it, and it's almost seen as, you know, a bad part of them, and but actually it's part of them. It's, you know, it's their survival technique, but it's about managing it and, you know, being present and, you know, taking some control back. So, you know,
owning it.
again, going back to, you know, that holistic look of, you know, things, you know, like making sure you've got a healthy diet, making sure you have sleep enough, making sure
Yeah.
that you know, limit the amount of phone time you have, you know, internet time,
Nutrition.
nutrition,
Yeah.
exercise, breathing, you know, yoga, all of these things. And I think it's easy for me to say it, but I think the hardest thing is for people to actually action it.
Yeah, definitely. It's always the hardest thing. You know, actions are always the hardest thing to take. You know, we can live with these things and not take action on it, which seems crazy, but actually it's so hard to put these things into action. And a lot of people, and especially I suppose if you suffer with anxiety where you don't like to be in large crowds or out on your own, things like that, you're not going to go for a run on your own.
Yeah.
You're not going to go to a yoga class because you're around a lot of people. So almost a catch-22. But one thing that you've said in that, what I really like and what I think people need to understand is that it's natural.
Yeah.
It's common. It's very common. A lot of people have anxiety, and I suppose
We
there's
all,
different
Rich,
levels
we all
of
have
that.
it. Every single human being has anxiety. It's a natural part of our survival. It's just the level of it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
And I think that's really important for people to understand, because once you can tell yourself, oh, actually, this is normal, this is okay. It's anxiety, but it is actually not just normal, but it's ingrained within us back many thousands and thousands of years ago. It's a survival technique that our body, it's causing an imbalance of chemicals in the brain, and that's what it is. You know, I know that there's deeper rooted causes through traumatic and stressful experiences that people might have been through in their lives, but on, you know, as a whole, and I'll admit now, and I've never really told anybody outside of my wife, that I've had a panic attack quite recently, and I've never had that, and I've never really been an anxious person. Get a little bit nervous about the odd thing here and there, but I had a panic attack. But I understood what was going on, and I took control of it, and I started breathing. I started feeling a bit faint with it, and I was actually thinking to myself, like, oh, yeah, this is, you're having a panic attack.
Yeah.
But I managed to understand what was going on, and I breathed through it, and I came through it, and I told my wife, I just had a panic attack. But it's never happened before, and it's never happened since. And I suppose for me, what the best thing about the way I reacted, and I don't know why I reacted that way. I suppose that because I've read up on stuff and I've been around people who've lived with this, and so I understood it enough to know what was happening. But I think the best thing for me was that I quickly understood that, and I quickly took control of the situation, and I didn't let it, because it's one of those things, you know, it's like panic. It turns into chaos if you let it grab hold of you. So to actually just try, and I know it sounds crazy that you're having a panic attack and calm, they shouldn't really, panic and calm don't really go in the same sentence, but that's what I did. I managed to take hold of it and calm myself down. I reacted in a calm manner. I took some deep breaths, and I've not done any breathing techniques or anything like that from YouTube, but it worked for me. And like I say, if people can understand instantly that this is quite a normal thing, it's common. A lot of people have gone through it. A lot of people are going through it, and not to sort of beat yourself up or feel bad about it, and understand that it's just one of those things, and it is quite instinctive as a human being to go through. I think that's a great point.
Yeah, and it was, I really liked what you were saying around, because it is, you know, when you explain something to somebody that your anxiety at the moment is controlling you. Do you know, when you can have the power to control it, it takes the power away from it. Do you know what I mean? And it's, you know, and it's a part of you. Be compassionate and kind towards you. And when you start to, excuse me, when you start to kind of talk about your anxiety as if it's a part of you, and treat it with compassion and treat it with some kind of love. It lessens the impact of it. And the other thing is as well is, it's about not getting overwhelmed with it. So you were able to kind of have the self-awareness to know what it was. A lot of the time people become overwhelmed with it, and then they will lose that ability to be able to rationally think. I mean, that's the problem. So if you the ideal thing to do is to actually acknowledge when you start to feel anxious. So when you first initially start to feel anxious, notice it. Don't judge it. Just notice it in your body. Notice where you feel it in your body. And then start to regulate your breathing. Do you know what I mean? Notice when your breathing starts to become irregulated and very short, and then start to elongate your breathing. The deeper the breathe you can do you know what I mean? The more oxygen you're getting in your body. So therefore, the more oxygen then goes to your brain. So then your brain's able to then come back online again.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, makes complete sense.
Rather than, when your anxiety starts to build, then you kind of go into that coping strategy that you've had for however many years, and not a lot of the time it'll be dysfunctional because it will take you away from relationship. It will take you away from connecting with another human being. And then it becomes dysfunctional. Do you know what I mean? And then, and then it starts to control you because you're then adapting to suit it.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. I think, them kind of things, those words, that information, that education is what people really need to be taking in and understanding, and just actually saying to themselves, this is how we need to act upon it. Let's not let it beat us. Let's take control of this, and let's not let it not take control of us. So, and still, again, categorizing all these things. Anxiety is that classed as an illness?
Well, there are, there are kind of medical kind of diagnosis of that. I'm not medically trained. I'm not a general practitioner. I'm not a psychiatrist. But some people, for example, so I spoke a little bit about this the other week. This is, so if a pregnant mum is in, a very destructive relationship, or she's, miscarried in the past, so she's extremely anxious while she's carrying the baby. She's releasing that cortisol into the kind of embryonic sac. So then the baby is constantly flooded with cortisol before they're even born. So then they will be born anxious. Wow. So then they will have that anxious disposition growing up as a child. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then that will manifest in however it manifests, and so mental health, do you know what I mean? I've worked with some people that have some really, really extreme work, live with some really kind of extreme anxiety kind of disorders, do you know what I mean? And there's, as I say, it's all relative, isn't it? Different people will experience anxiety in different ways. I'm just kind of generalizing, really, which I don't really like to do, but there will be different levels of it. Yeah, if that kind of answers the question.
Yeah. So maybe, if there's you've been through a traumatic or very stressful experience at a young age, or even pre-birth, as you've just mentioned, then that's a deeper rooted cause, which is potentially more of an illness. But if this is something that's just sort of coming on in later life, which has started from the likes of stress, which is usually linked to people having financial difficulties, work or relationship issues. I suppose it's understanding that, because what I'm trying to do really here, Gary, is let people understand these things, because it's like you say, depression gets bandied about, mental health gets bandied about, anxiety, stress, all these things, and they're almost all one thing, but they're not. There's different levels to that, and as you said, depression is a medical condition. It's where, if you're severely depressed, that's where you need to get help. Mental health's another thing. People just say mental health. So there's good mental health and there's poor mental health.
Absolutely. Do you know, it's about, there is absolutely good mental health, and it's something that you need to work on. Like I say to people, if you went to the dentist with toothache and the dentist said to you, okay, so stop eating sweets and brush your teeth twice a day, and then you went back 3 weeks later and said, I've still got toothache, and they went, have you stopped eating sweets and brushing your teeth? And you went, well, actually, no. Do you know what I mean? Your toothache's not going to get better, is it? Your mental health is no different, mate. Do you know what I mean? And it's about, having good mental health awareness and, best practice for looking after your own mental health. And if you can start incorporating things into your everyday routine, like you will spend, 2-3 minutes in the morning and 2-3 minutes at night brushing your teeth, won't you? Do you know what I mean? You will, you will look after other parts of your body. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously I don't go to the hairdressers anymore. Do you know what I mean? But you will look after your hair. You will look after, pamper yourself. Spend some time every day looking after your mental health.
Yeah, definitely. And not your physical being. So, like you say, 100%, that makes complete sense. Putting nail varnish on, for instance, if you're a female or male, I suppose. All those kind of things. People are still getting dressed up during a lockdown and putting makeup on and stuff like that. Why not think about your inner self rather than your outer self?
Absolutely.
And actually, it's a really good point. That meditation, I suppose, is something that I have always said that I want to be able to really get into. I've done some yoga and stuff in the past, and I love yoga, but I'm not spiritual. I've never been able to get into that true spiritual mind, where you're just at one kind of thing. That would be something amazing that I'm going to work on, and eventually, I hope to get there. I've got plenty of time left, but even just the small steps to making yourself feel better. And you, like you say, you'll spend, you can spend 20 minutes looking at Facebook.
Yeah.
For instance,
you know what?
Why don't you spend that 20 minutes working out?
Do you know what being mindful is? It's about being present, mate. That's all it is. It's about, so you can be mindful brushing your teeth in the morning. So when you're brushing your teeth in the morning, what's the sensation that you feel in your mouth? Like, use your senses. What does it smell like? What does it, what's it feel like?
Yeah.
How many...
That's interesting.
Ask this question, and I'd like to the listeners as well, because I think this is a really important. When was the last time that you actually sat down for a meal and used your senses and ate your meal mindfully?
Yeah, I'm very guilty of not doing that and just shoveling it down my neck.
So, I
do like my food.
Yeah, me too. But when do you ever mindfully eat it? So when do you actually ever taste what the meal feels like, the sensations, the different textures in your mouth? What does your food smell like? What does it actually taste like? You know what I mean? And notice what you're eating when you're chewing. Be present when you're eating, rather than have your head stuck in the TV, or do you know what I mean? Be more present.
Yeah, I mean, it's so easy to not be present, and I do get pulled up on this sometimes, especially with my wife when she's talking to me, and I'm very sort of, and I kind of make excuses, I suppose. But one thing I can't do is, if let's say I'm doing something, I suppose it's multitasking. The old, you're a man, you can't multitask. But if I'm typing an email, or I'm reading something on Instagram or anything else, and my wife's speaking to me, the only way I can hear her is if I stop doing what
Yeah.
I'm doing and turn to her and look at her and understand it in
Yeah.
that way. But yeah, I'm useless at taking information in at the same time as I'm trying to do something
Because you
else.
can't do it. Our bodies are not supposed to be able to do things like that. So again,
So set that time
yeah,
aside.
about being present is about being mindful and actually I'm going to connect with you. So I'm going to sit down, I'm going to put every other distraction out of the way, and I'm just going to be there 100%. I'm going to have 100% of my be fully present with you and connect with
Yeah.
you. Do you know?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's a point that I need to take, and I've written that down. Be mindful, be
Yeah.
present. It's a great point, and I'm sure I'll get some stick after she listens to this podcast, and she'll say that I've been telling you this for
I'm going
ages.
to message her later and
But
find out if you did it or not.
yeah, no doubt. So, I mean, I don't want to have to go through every single point, but I think we've picked up on all these things, and stress, anxiety, mental health, and I like that people need to really feel more about good mental health,
Yeah.
the way you've just explained there. Mental health isn't just a bad thing. It's poor mental health is obviously, we talked about the links to food, to binge eating, causing certain deficiencies, anxiety coming from, thousands of years ago, really, and just being instinctive almost. I feel like a lot of anxiety is now caused by people feeling the need to keep up appearances as well and have material possessions and, be somebody that they're not. By looking at the media, reading the papers, looking at magazines, Instagram, and you're looking at these kind of celebrity lifestyles and people trying to maintain one of those lifestyles. And, what's wrong with being yourself? Be you and be who you are, and people will love you for being that person. And I've been told that myself in the past, which was really good for me. And I think that reassurance from other people is always helpful. So if you are with somebody, for instance, that does kind of look at people and look at other people's possessions and the way they look and, super slim bodies or muscular and all that kind of thing, I think it's important for partners and friends and family members to be like, you're beautiful how you are. You're an amazing person. The things that we see are so vague. We only see what they want us to see. We don't see the bad parts. So, like, if I'm talking about a celebrity, for instance, that's on Instagram, yeah, of course we're going to see their highlight reel. We're not going to see because there's a lot of celebrities out there that are suffering heavily with anxiety, depression. Take for instance Tyson Fury, and I loved that when he came out and talked about this, because he's not just a man, he's a gypsy man. And the pride there for him to be able to come out and say, yeah, I've got mental health issues and I've struggled and I've tried to kill myself in the past. And it really changed my opinion on Tyson Fury. I mean, I'd liked him from at the start when he first came out, and he started getting quite cocky and this, that, and the other. And it all kind of makes sense. It goes back to where we started from talking about perception of people. It's a front. Yeah. It's a complete front that he was putting on. And it actually, he put that on to make people like him, which they didn't like him for that. And when he won the title against Vladimir Klitschko, he wasn't like, he didn't come back to England and he wasn't celebrated for it. People didn't really like him. And it was after that bout, after he unified the world heavyweight titles, that he actually went into complete depression, went binge eating, put a shitload of weight on, started taking loads of drugs, all that kind of stuff. And when he came out and started speaking about all that, he said, he's come back from, he lost, I don't know how, he lost somewhere in the region of 14 stone, I think it was, to come back to fight again for a title. And you know what he's done now. Unbelievable, an amazing achievement. But the biggest achievement was that battle that he overcame with depression. And people loved him more for being open and honest about that battle that he had than the battle that he had with Vladimir Klitschko, where he won those titles. And that was where he was putting all the bravado on. And you strip that all away, and people loved him for who he actually was.
Do you know what, Rich? This is really, like, I talk a lot about this. So we we will have an identity that we will almost accumulate over the course of our lives. Do you know what I mean? We change identities, we slip in and out of different ones. And if you look at him, for example, he created an identity for the general public. And then after he'd won that world title fight, what happened was the identity that he created, he became that identity. And then he couldn't reconnect with actually who he was as a human being. Yeah. So if you think about us, your listeners and things like that, I would encourage to start looking at, like, who are you? What's your identity? Who are you? And if you ask somebody to introduce themselves, most of the time they will tell you what they do. Do you know what I mean? So if I asked you, Rich, to introduce yourself, tell me who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those questions where everybody freezes up and they want to give the quickest answer that they can give.
It's a tough question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It really is. And, like you say, one of the first things I would probably come to is, and I suppose one of the reasons why that question would trigger my answer is because I get asked this a lot on calls. So I do a lot of video conferencing calls and stuff. So one of the things that we do is introduce ourselves to the people we're speaking with. So I'll be like, yeah, I'm Richard. I'm from X company and I do this. Yeah. So I think a lot of my mind is kind of more centered around that, because that's just kind of ingrained in me to tell people what I do. And that's probably the same with a lot of other people. But yeah, very true. I mean, you don't say, yeah, I'm Richard. My name's Richard. And, I'm a father of two. I'm married to Kira for 18 years or whatever it is. I get that. Yeah. Well, yeah, I suppose it's not who I am either, is it?
It's not who you are. It's part of your identity, because what you've just described to me then, part of your identity is a dad and a husband. That's not who you are. That's part of your identity. And so if I could kind of shed a little bit of light on this, if I was to describe myself, I would say, I'm Gary. I'm an imperfect human being. I struggle sometimes to show my vulnerability. At times I will put on a mask to be able to protect that vulnerability. Do you know what I mean? And like things like that. Do you know what I mean? That's who I am as a person. Do you know? I feel, and we will, right, and we will adapt different identities. Do you know what I mean? And I think especially this coronavirus, I think the people that I've spoke to that have struggled with it, I think are the people that have had part of their identity stripped away because they've had to go into lockdown. So what they're left with is like the raw version of themselves, and it's not part of their identity. So then that triggers kind of shame reactions and things like that. And it's like, oh, I'm not good enough if I can't go to work, or I'm not good enough if I'm not doing this or not doing that.
Yeah, I suppose that's a really good point, that it kind of puts us all on the same level. Yeah. There's almost no hierarchy. Yeah. You could be a CEO of a business, but you're sat in your bedroom or your sort of makeshift office at the minute, and there's nobody. Yeah, I know there's people that are underneath you because you're still running a business and they're working from home, but actually it doesn't work in the same way as it would work in the office.
Yeah, exactly.
You're stripped of all of that, and then you've got to now be faced with who you are. And one of the things is, before we get too far on from this, and I forget because I often do, I think as a bit of an exercise, what people should try is what you've just said there, is look in the mirror and ask yourself, who am I? Who are you? Ask that person in the mirror, who are you? And give a complete, honest, and just strip away all that bravado, everything else, and ask yourself that question and see if you like the answer or not. Because the answer that you get back is probably going to be key to the areas in which you need to work on yourself to become a better person and to love yourself as a person, and accept yourself.
And I think I would encourage people to accept all of themselves. So if you've got a part of you that you don't particularly like, that part of you is probably protecting you from something else. So protecting you from your vulnerability. So for me, let me talk about my mask or my identity would be this kind of loud, kind of, larger than life character that's always laughing and joking. Do you know what I mean? But what that part of me does, that protects the quiet, vulnerable, insecure part of me. That stops people from getting to know that part of me. So my kind of journey, for want of a better word, has been to get those two parts of me to interact with each other. So one part tells the other part what they love about that part and how, and then slowly, as I build different kinds of relationships, like with yourself, etc., then start to be able to kind of let you see those sides.
Yeah, I suppose those two sides, allowing them to live harmoniously.
They're all part of you. You should love you as a whole, and not hate parts of you. Do you know what I mean? Like, because that part of you is part of you, and you should love all of you. Do you know what I mean? And be compassionate towards that part of you, because it's been there to protect you in the past.
Yeah, definitely, and it works. There's parts of me that I could look back and say, oh, you was horrible at this age. You was a dick. You was this. You was that. But actually, it worked, and it got me through some times. And I know a lot of the things that where I wouldn't be that person now. But I know at that time, it was almost a protective mechanism, or it worked in the situation that I was in and things like that. So, and one of the things that you said, when you said, all right, let me tell you who I am, you said, I'm Gary, I'm an imperfect human. And do you know what popped into my head as soon as you said that? Perfectly imperfect. I think that's the best way of describing it. Because we're all imperfect.
We are all imperfect, and perfection doesn't exist.
Exactly. So I think if you can look at it in that sense, that you're perfectly imperfect, meaning that it's okay, it's fine, and that's how we need to be. We need to appreciate and accept who we are, and appreciate that that's us. And once we accept that, and when you share that with other people, and they get to know that as well, because everybody has the flaws, and everybody knows everybody has the flaws. So you don't need to hide it. People can see it, but they're going to see the good in you as well. And that good's going to outweigh those flaws. So, and it makes us who we are. It shapes us as people. And it gets us to where we're going, I suppose, on our journey through life. Yeah. Awesome. And so just to sum it up, I mean, I think some good points were made as, if you are feeling a little bit down, you're going through these things, you're kind of binge eating or you're drinking too much, especially right now. I suppose a lot of people are struggling with this lockdown. You picked up on some things like get good sleep, and it's so simple. It's something that takes nothing. Just make sure you're getting enough sleep, and I think they recommend 8 hours
a night. Encourage you to kind of if you go on your phone a lot, do you know what I mean? Encourage you to kind of put your phone away an hour before you go to bed. Do you know? Turn off all your notifications. Put your phone on silent. Just general well-being, really. Do you know? We're all, we're amazing human beings. Start to be compassionate and look after yourself. Do you know what I mean? So making sure that you're eating properly. You're.
That's what I was coming on to next. So point one, I was saying get some good sleep, and I love that. You just took the words right out of my mouth. So eat well.
Do you know?
Yeah. Number two.
exercise, absolutely exercise. You know,
Keep
we're
active.
we're born to move all the time. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And it's
yeah,
difficult at the moment
yeah.
because we're cooped up indoors a lot.
Well,
So you know,
even if it's going for a
yeah,
walk, even if it means you're going for a walk, right? And this is what I mean, because obviously different people struggle a little bit with different things. If you're going for a walk, and especially at a time like this, if you've got young kids, they need to get out as well. The one way I always look at it, and I think I heard this somewhere before, it's like imagine yourself as you're a dog. You know, if you keep a dog locked up for so long, they're going to go
yeah,
wild. They need to be out. They need to be outdoors. They need to go for that run and expel that energy that they've got kind of just brewing up inside of them. And humans were exactly the same. But even if you've got kids and stuff like that, go for a
yeah.
walk. I think that's a really, really good one, because just getting that fresh air, taking in those sights, it can just relieve a bit of stress. You can just be away from the other shit that you've got going on in your head at that moment. Take in the sights, be present, as you've said.
Try and get.
If you don't want to go outside, I would say,
I would try and encourage everyone to get outside at least, like once a day
yeah,
for a walk. Just go in,
yeah,
try to connect with nature. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
And as I said earlier on, be present around nature. Do listen to
yeah,
the birds singing, smell the environment that you're in. Do you know what I mean? If you're in the park or in the countryside, really, really
yeah.
be
And
present with it. Don't be thinking about what you're going to have for tea tonight, or do you know what I mean? What's on TV or
yeah,
whatever. Do you know what I mean? Be present.
yep, yep. In that moment, yeah. And that's it. You just literally, I started at point one and you went 2, 3, 4. So I'm glad we're on the same wavelength. So get good sleep, eat well, keep active, and mindfulness,
Yeah.
being present. They're 4 key things there. And I love that. And I think, if anybody can just take even a small amount of information from this, a little bit of education to put into their lives that makes them feel less stressed or less anxious or anything, then we've done a good
Yeah.
job, Gary. So I really
I've
appreciate
enjoyed
it.
it, mate. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. It's been quite
Good.
therapeutic. What I wanted to go into, actually, before we get into the quiz, you are running 100 miles starting tomorrow,
Yes,
am I
mate.
right? For the month
Yeah,
of
I
May?
am. Yeah.
You are? Let's talk about that, because that's amazing, man.
So it's through Mind mental health charity.
Yep.
Obviously, they've lost a lot of money through. They get a lot of donations, don't they? Through the marathons, London Marathon, etc., etc., etc. So they've lost a
Yeah.
lot of money. So they're doing a like how many miles can you run in May, and you can pick the amount that you want to do. So I think it starts off at
Yeah.
25, goes up to 250. So I can only run 3 days a week, and I'm working full time. So I thought,
Yeah.
I normally run sort of, I don't know, 10, 12K. So I thought, what can be, and I don't do that every time I go out. So I thought, what can be a decent challenge? So I thought, 100 miles is, that's a lot, and it's 25 miles a week.
That's a challenge. Yeah, it is a challenge. I mean, I run, and I've started running more, and I did 50. Well, I did challenge myself last year before I went on holiday. Kind of, so in a way, this is how my mind works. I challenge myself to get into shape by setting myself a bit of a goal. So I was like, all right, I'm going to run the equivalent to a marathon. And I think I had about 16 days. I thought I'll run a marathon before I go on holiday. So marathon's like 27 miles. And then I did 6 miles on my first run. I was like, all right, I've underestimated myself here. I've got all this time. So I bumped it up and did 2 marathons in those 16 days, which worked out at 54 miles. And I tell you, towards the end of that, my knee was hurting. I was going through, it was a struggle. So yeah, this is a big challenge. If 100 miles in a month.
Yeah, I'm looking forward.
I don't think, and I was definitely ready for my holiday. So yeah, I wish you all the best on that, man. And I'll tell you what, if we can get a run in together, that'd be great. And I'd love to support you with that run. Are you got like a Just
I'm
Giving
going to
page
set
or
one
something
up tomorrow. So I'll let you know,
Right.
and I'll stick it on my Instagram.
Yeah, definitely. So let me know. I'll edit the bio because the bio will be put on tonight once I've done this, which will have your social media in anyway. So by tomorrow, people can listen to this podcast. Your social media, your Instagram page will go into that bio. So if you can kindly help Gary raise some money for a great charity, go to his Instagram page, follow him, get some great help, and just from what you've got from this podcast, but also help him to raise some money. 100 miles is a big challenge, man.
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
I'm really excited because it's, for me, I like to focus on something, and it's gonna help me, focus, and so it sorts my own mental health out.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a good thing. That's the thing as well, I suppose, when people are doing, you're getting this exercise and you're doing it to, help your own mind. That's what people need to understand is that, set yourself a goal and stick to that goal. And before you know it, you'll really get into it. My wife's always said that she can't run, and she has struggled, and she's not got the greatest knees and stuff like that, but she's doing the couch to 5K to start her off. And she's on like week 3 now, and she came back this morning. She went, I'm really enjoying it. She's really loving it. So, and she's tried for years, and always said, I know it hurts my knees and this and another. Just keep trying, keep pushing, and get yourself into that mindset. And eventually, it's not just going to be, this is something I'm doing to keep my mind good. It's going to be something you're going to enjoy. And I think that's part of it. And I think to sort of sum all of this up is that all these things, all these steps that we need to take, and I've said this on multiple podcasts in the past, it's a lifestyle change. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's not a quick fix. There is no quick fixes. They don't exist. We've got to take these steps, and as small as these steps may be, they can be baby steps.
It needs to be baby steps, because otherwise people can become overwhelmed with it, And that's why that counts to 5K works, because it starts off walking. Do you know what I mean? Whoever invented that's genius, mate. Because that's how I first got back into running 6 months ago. That's exactly what I did. Do you know what I mean?
Wicked. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome, man. And look, so you did that a few months ago, from walking to next month, and I know you're going to do it. If anybody's going to do it, you will. You're going to do 100 miles next month. So, think about that, people. That's definitely something that you can do. We can all sort of take these actions, take these small steps. We're human beings, and human beings are, very, very strong. Very, as much as we can be. Yeah, we're very resilient. That's the word. But as much as we can be, also quite vulnerable, we can also be very resilient, very tough. So. Awesome, man. Look, Gary, it's been amazing. And before we go, I'm going to drag you into the quiz.
Yeah, don't expect too much this time of night.
Yeah, well, look, it is what it is, man. It's a bit of fun. Top score's 5. We've got 2 people on 5 at the minute, so let's see how you get on, mate. I'm gonna get the timer ready. It's just a bit of fun. I know people have actually said how much they like doing these, or they like listening to this part of the show, believe it or not. So let's get it finished off in style. Let's see if you can go for a 6, Gary. You've got a minute to win it. If you don't know the answer, just say pass, and I'll move straight on. It's the best way to get on with it. Okay? Right. In the zodiac, which animal is linked with Capricorn?
Is it a ram?
I'll give you that. It's a goat. How many years are involved in a silver
25.
anniversary? Which children's author wrote Gangster Granny?
David Williams.
Which country does Bryan Adams come from?
Canada.
What is the world's largest land mammal?
It's a whale, isn't it? Do you want the blue whale, is it?
Pass. Who was I in I Am Legend?
Oh, man. No, pass.
Who is best known for his theory of black holes?
Stephen Hawking.
How many runs does a batsman score in cricket when the ball crosses the boundary without
6.
touching the floor? What is the colour? Oh, That's it. We're done. Let me finish this question now. I'm gonna give you that though. I'm gonna give you that. What colour is the L in the Google logo?
No idea. I'm gonna say blue.
It was worth a guess. So the answer to that was green.
Right.
That's a bit of a tough one, but yeah, it was worth a guess. Right. Hey, Gaz, mate, you got off to an absolute cracker. So, how many runs does a batsman score in cricket when the ball crosses the boundary rope without touching the floor? 6. That's correct. Best known for his theory of black holes, Stephen Hawking. Correct. Who was I in the I Am Legend? Will Smith.
Do you know what? I nearly said him and all.
Yeah. This is where you probably didn't hear the question properly. What is the world's largest land mammal?
Oh.
So you said whale or the blue. So you was right as in mammal, but it was a land mammal. I'll let you guess now.
Land mammal. Oh. Don't know, mate. Giraffe. Oh yeah,
Elephant. But get this, Bryan Adams comes from Canada. Gangster Granny was wrote by David Walliams. 25 years is a silver anniversary. And the animal linked with Capricorn's a goat. You smashed those first 4 questions. Mate, you got 6. Top of the leaderboard. Well done. You smashed it. You smashed it, mate. Well done. Well done. That's going to be hard to beat. Absolutely brilliant. Right, so let's finish off with your socials, Gary. I know you're not a massive social media guy. Is it just
all
Instagram?
I've got is Instagram, yeah. It's at Gaza, GAZZA, mental health.
Awesome. I will put that up in the link on the bio. You'll get mentioned in my Instagram page anyway. You'll also be going up onto the website when I get around to updating that. So, yeah. Listen, man, it's been awesome. I've really enjoyed having you on. I hope people can take a lot away from this. And I wish you all the best with this run. This 100 miles starting tomorrow. So, are you going out tomorrow?
No, mate, I'm not. I'm going to leave it till Saturday. I'm going to do a hit. I'm going to do a hit class tomorrow morning.
Okay, fair enough, man. Well, listen, I know you can do it. I believe in you. And if you need any help, if you need somebody to, just to push you along towards the end of it, give me a shout, man, and I'll be there for you.
Rich.
This podcast is sponsored by Beast and Bulk Nutrition. Train better, live better, be better. If you're looking to increase muscle mass, promote muscular endurance and increase strength, then Beast and Bulk Nutrition have the key ingredients to supplement your health and fitness program. With Create Bulk, made with the highest quality, purest creatine monohydrate, its potent 4,000 milligram servings will provide that extra pump and increase those muscle gains. Testo Beast. This testosterone booster is made up with 9 top natural and powerful ingredients including ashwagandha, vitamin D, luteolin and zinc, which effectively help boost your testosterone levels, strength and endurance. And then there's the Chaotic Beast. Chaotic Beast is a scientifically formulated pre-workout supplement providing the perfect balance of caffeine, creatine and branched-chain amino acids to kickstart your training sessions, giving you the focused and prolonged muscle endurance throughout. Its sour apple flavour makes it a more pleasurable experience compared to its market rivals. Visit the website beastandbulk.com or find them on Amazon using the promo code POD10 at the checkout for a 10% discount courtesy of Project Pod. That's POD10 at the checkout for a 10% discount. Beast and Bulk. Don't compete, dominate.